The silver tray slipped from Clara Bennett's trembling hands just as a glass shattered against the marble floor, and before she could even bend down to pick up the pieces, a wave of ice-cold water struck her face. She gasped, stumbling backward as water streamed through her hair and down the front of her plain blue uniform. Across the luxurious kitchen stood Vanessa Whitmore, furious and breathing heavily, still gripping the empty silver pitcher in her hand. "How dare you embarrass me in my own home?" Vanessa shouted. Clara lowered her eyes, fighting back tears, but neither woman noticed the man standing silently in the doorway behind them. Billionaire Nathaniel Brooks had just returned home unexpectedly, and he had seen everything. For a moment, nobody moved. Nathaniel's expensive leather shoes stood on the polished floor while his expression slowly changed from confusion to disbelief. The mansion, located in the wealthy hills outside Los Angeles, California, had always felt peaceful to him, but what he was seeing in his own kitchen made something inside him ache. Clara, a 29-year-old maid who had worked in the Brooks household for nearly 2 years, was drenched from head to toe. Vanessa, Nathaniel's fiancée, was standing several feet away with anger still burning in her eyes. Nathaniel had never imagined that the woman he planned to marry could treat another human being that way. Before we continue, if you believe kindness matters more than money, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, leave a comment telling us where you are watching from, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. Clara had grown up in a small town in Ohio, where her mother had taught her that honest work was never something to be ashamed of. After her mother became seriously ill, Clara had moved to California to find better work and help pay the bills. She had started cleaning houses, washing dishes, and caring for elderly people, often working 12-hour days. When she finally found a position at the Brooks mansion, she thought her life was beginning to change. Nathaniel had always treated the staff respectfully, often thanking them personally and asking about their families. Clara had quietly admired that quality in him, even though she never allowed herself to forget the enormous difference between their lives. Vanessa was different. From the moment she arrived at the mansion, she treated the household staff as though they were invisible. She complained about the smallest imperfections, snapped her fingers when she wanted something, and repeatedly reminded everyone that she would soon be the lady of the house. Clara tried to avoid her whenever possible. She understood that losing her job would mean losing the money she desperately needed for her mother's medical care back in Ohio. So she endured the insults, the criticism, and the cold looks without complaining. That afternoon, Vanessa had been preparing for an important dinner with several wealthy investors. She had ordered Clara to polish a collection of crystal glasses that had been stored in a cabinet. Clara carefully cleaned every glass and placed them on a silver tray. But when Vanessa entered the kitchen, she noticed one tiny water spot on a glass near the bottom of the tray. She immediately accused Clara of deliberately making her look foolish. Clara tried to explain that she could clean it again, but Vanessa's anger grew. In the heat of the moment, Vanessa grabbed a pitcher of water and threw it directly into Clara's face. The humiliation was worse than the cold water. Clara had been treated badly before, but never had anyone humiliated her so openly. Now Nathaniel stepped forward. His voice was calm, but the disappointment behind it was unmistakable. He asked Vanessa what had happened. Vanessa immediately tried to defend herself, claiming Clara had been disrespectful and had ruined the evening preparations. But Nathaniel looked at the broken glass, the spilled water, and Clara's trembling hands. Then he noticed something else. On the counter sat a small envelope addressed to Clara. It contained a hospital payment notice from Ohio. Nathaniel remembered Clara mentioning months earlier that her mother was sick. Suddenly, he understood why Clara had tolerated so much. Vanessa attempted to dismiss the incident as insignificant, saying it was only water and that Clara was being overly sensitive. Nathaniel looked at her for several seconds before telling her that the problem was not the water. The problem was the belief that having money gave anyone the right to humiliate another person. Vanessa became defensive and reminded him that she was his future wife. Nathaniel quietly answered that becoming his wife would never give her permission to mistreat anyone. The kitchen fell silent. Clara immediately apologized for the broken glass even though it had not been her fault. She said she would clean everything and return to work. Nathaniel stopped her and told her she had nothing to apologize for. He asked her to go upstairs, change her clothes, and take the rest of the day off with pay. Clara hesitated because she feared Vanessa would punish her later. Nathaniel assured her that nobody would punish her for telling the truth. But the story did not end there. That evening, Nathaniel asked his longtime house manager, Margaret Collins, to bring him the staff records and security footage from the previous several months. What he discovered left him stunned. There were multiple complaints from employees about Vanessa's behavior, but most had never been formally submitted because the staff feared losing their jobs. One elderly gardener had resigned after Vanessa publicly insulted him. A young kitchen assistant had quit after being blamed for a mistake she had not made. Clara herself had quietly paid for a broken serving plate months earlier even though the footage showed Vanessa had knocked it from the table. Nathaniel watched the recordings alone. He felt ashamed that he had been so busy building his company that he had failed to notice what was happening under his own roof. He had spent years believing that success meant protecting the people he loved, but he suddenly realized that protection meant nothing if he ignored people who were vulnerable. The next morning, Nathaniel called Clara into his office. She arrived nervous, expecting to be fired. Instead, he told her that he had reviewed everything and wanted to apologize for failing to recognize what she had been experiencing. Clara began crying quietly. She explained that she had never wanted special treatment. She only wanted to work honestly without being treated like she was less human than everyone else. Nathaniel told her that was not asking for too much. He then offered to cover her mother's overdue medical expenses, but Clara initially refused, saying she could not accept charity. Nathaniel respected her pride and explained that he was not offering charity. He was offering support to someone who had earned his respect through her strength and kindness. Then came the hardest decision. Nathaniel asked Vanessa to meet him in the library. He told her the wedding was cancelled. Vanessa was shocked. She accused Clara of destroying their relationship, but Nathaniel corrected her. He told her that Clara had not destroyed anything. Vanessa's own actions had revealed the truth about who she was. He explained that wealth, beauty, and social status meant nothing if compassion was missing. Vanessa left the mansion that afternoon, furious and humiliated, but Nathaniel never regretted his decision. Weeks passed. Clara's mother received the treatment she needed, and Clara continued working at the mansion, though Nathaniel eventually promoted her to household supervisor. More importantly, the atmosphere among the staff changed completely. People no longer worked in fear. Nathaniel introduced a new policy allowing every employee to report mistreatment without worrying about losing their job. He also began having breakfast with the staff once a month, not as a billionaire trying to appear generous, but as a man who had finally learned that dignity should never depend on someone's bank account. Months later, Clara received a phone call from Ohio. Her mother was improving. She cried with relief and sat quietly in the garden after hanging up. Nathaniel found her there and simply sat beside her. He did not ask for gratitude. He only told her that sometimes the people who seem forgotten are the ones carrying the greatest battles. Clara smiled through her tears and said that she had once believed coming to California meant surviving. Now she believed it meant discovering that life could still surprise her. The mansion had not changed. The marble floors were still polished, the chandeliers still glittered, and the expensive cars still lined the driveway. But something much more valuable had changed inside it. The people who worked there had discovered that they mattered. Nathaniel had discovered that wealth could build walls, but kindness could open doors. And Clara, the maid who had once stood trembling beneath a pitcher of cold water, had learned that being treated with dignity was not a privilege reserved for the rich. It was something every human being deserved. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes that kindness can change lives, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories with meaningful lessons to more people. And before the story ends, comment, "Kindness matters," if you believe that no amount of wealth, power, or anger should ever give someone the right to humiliate another human being. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment in a person's life is not when they become rich, famous, or successful. Sometimes it is simply the moment someone finally stands up and says, "You matter." For Clara, that moment came after a pitcher of cold water, a broken glass, and a billionaire who walked through the door at exactly the right time. And from that day forward, the mansion was no longer a place where the powerful commanded and the powerless obeyed. It became a place where every person, regardless of their position, was finally treated with the dignity they deserved.